Welcome to another episode of the Strong Family Project podcast. I'm your co-host, Joe, with host Mel. Today, we're going to talk about something I saw online. When I started doing research to provide some info for you on this project, I wanted to learn what was on people's minds. So I joined a lot of the Facebook groups on family life. For me, it was family life, parenting, and fatherhood. There's some shocking posts in the fatherhood groups, and these are massive groups. 50,000 plus dads are in these groups, or 50,000 plus people. I don't know. They're in these groups, and they were asking a series of questions I would have never guessed. I was thinking, like, how do I spend time with my kids? What are some activities? What are some ideas? And what I was reading in there was very surprising. And we're going to go over that today. Mel, read us in.
Welcome back to the Strong Family Project podcast, where we guide you on the path to raising confident, independent, and resilient children in a strong family environment.
This episode is brought to you by us. And to thank us for providing all the information, please share it. I don't mean to say that in a conceited way, but we do have something for you. If you visit us at strongfamilyproject.com, you can download the 7 Steps to the Path and see our notes on it. The 7 Steps to the Path are the first 7 episodes of this podcast, and you'll have our printables to work off of as well. They are free for you on our website. So nothing to sell. We want to provide you tremendous value to yours and your family's life. Mel, talk to him for a moment.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. I need to catch my breath. I don't know why I got so winded. Because I didn't want to get into today's podcast topic yet. We got to do our banter piece on something that happened today. First, we recorded this episode, and then we stopped and decided to re-record it. I got a little feisty, and I got a little fired up, and I used some analogies that may not have been as helpful to people, and so we're re-recording it. Now, if you notice, I also have my phone in my hand if you're watching on YouTube. That's because our technical director, Logan, is doing his after-dinner stuff, his chores, his playing with his brothers, contributions to the family. So I am also the technical director switching the camera, so I'm not paying attention. That was the double
That's
negative.
right, because that means you are paying attention. That's
but
right.
I do have my phone in my hand, so that is the reason why if you're watching and joining us on YouTube today. So I'm switching the camera angles and things like that. For today's topic, first, we're doing a re-recording. We want to provide you the best content, so we're giving it another try. Maybe I'll save that episode for a little behind-the-scenes exclusive for people who are on the newsletter, who have read the 7 Steps of the Path, who do get our emails, who are a little bit more connected, and we'll start giving you some extra content because we have a deeper relationship with you. We can probably talk to a little bit more directly and a little bit more clearly. It comes from a place of caring and love and not just stumbling across a video on YouTube and perhaps not embracing it as much as if we didn't have a relationship. So we'll have some exclusive content for those people who are invested and have the relationship, following us on Instagram, things like that. Second thing that happened today is we took a trip to the Walmart. The first thing we did on the way to Walmart is we stopped and got a family hike in because it was close. We always want to take advantage of proximity. So when we are out and about, we want to make sure that we're doing things together as best as possible. So it is actually practical in a busy day. The second thing at Walmart, Mel, I don't know why I'm so winded tonight. It's after dinner, and
I think that's what it is. Like, we're probably just full, and I'm having the same feeling, so.
Full. It's been a long day. We had a great family workout, and I posted some pictures on our Instagram page, which will be in the show notes, of some fitness ideas. I'm a little gassed.
That was awesome.
My
this
legs,
morning. Yeah.
the hike, dealing with Walmart, all stress me out. Now, here's something I want to mention before we get into the episode of what I was reading in these parent groups. We went to Walmart, and there's something that I want you to be aware of, which is being aware of your surroundings. And so I don't bring things a lot up to Mel and the kids because I don't want them nervous and I don't want them to have a jaded view of the world. I just want them to be aware and safe in situations. And there's some characters out there that you should probably be aware of. The first one is yourself. And so when I go out, if you're watching YouTube, this is what I typically wear. I'm not out there. It's called a gray man concept. I'm not out there to stand out. I'm not wearing shirts like college football shirts for me playing. I'm not wearing gun shirts. I'm not wearing And then make sure it's like I want to blend in and not be threatening to people around me based on my apparel. I just want to be there. Already at 6'5", 230, I stand out in a crowd, and I don't want to exacerbate that with standing out like a sore thumb when I go out places. So I try to blend in. The second thing is to be aware of the other people that are in the room. Today, for the first time in a long time, I actually haven't seen this since middle of the pandemic on airplanes. Saw someone that was wearing a full like fireman's type gas mask, had a book bag on, had a long jacket on, was walking very quickly through Walmart. Mel and the kids didn't really notice it. I noticed them go over to the clothes section. So I said, hey, why don't you guys go do your grocery shopping? I'll be in this aisle. And I just kind of walked back and forth in the aisle just to keep an eye on things. Because there's been a lot of violence in public places lately. In this state, there has been a lot of violence in public places. And you see someone that's covering their entire body up, carrying something that could hold something else that they carried into the store, that is acting very nervous by their twitch and the speed of their movement. It is just something that you should be aware of as an adult. It is much better to be aware of and have nothing happen than to be unaware and have something happen. The consequences are way different. I'd rather be very aware and be completely wrong about my assumptions. This person could just have some mental things going on. Person could be just absolutely nervous. They could have not had a vehicle and had to hike there with their book bag. There could be a lot of other reasons, but I'm just not going to take the chance as an adult that's responsible for family safety and the safety of those around me. As a serious adult, I'm not going to take things for chance.
Right, and you don't go around looking for trouble, obviously, but you have
I
that
do the
awareness.
opposite. I try to not have people talk to me or be aware in most situations.
And that's not something that I have really worked on for myself, and I even need to become more aware. I walk in the store, I'm here to achieve a purpose, to get some food,
Mhm.
get in and out as quickly as possible, and I don't really think about the other people. But I do think that this is probably something that it is something that we need to become more aware of and teach our kids in an understandable way. I don't want to be taken off, or I don't want to be surprised. And I think a lot of times if you're with us, I just assume you'll do it, so I don't do it, which you obviously did today, even though I wasn't really aware that's what you were doing. And then you took the opportunity to train Henry a little bit. You took him along when I was waiting for my turkey to be sliced or whatever.
Yeah, we discussed some things to keep an eye out for. We had another person come in that had a painting ventilating mask. It was a little different. The first one was definitely odd and weird and something that you should just keep an eye on. This person came in with like dishwashing gloves up to their elbow, short sleeve shirt, and like painter's type mask on into the store. They weren't covering up any more of their head. They didn't have a book bag on them. And it was almost a little bit more sad. Like, all right, this person's probably not a threat, but it's still something to keep an eye on. There's just some differences.
And this makes me think of how we need to be more skilled and personally resilient and confident. I think when you just assume if something happens, someone else will handle it. Someone else will notice or take care of it, which is what my attitude was, thinking that I have you there, so I'll be fine. But oftentimes you're not there. So I need to make sure that I become more aware so that I'm more skilled and I can handle the situation as well and not just assume that someone else will handle it.
And my last thoughts on it before we get into today's topic, and this is just how I approach things, and I know some people asked me how I approach things, so that's why I'm sharing, is that I want to be the least dangerous looking, most dangerous person in the room. Like
Say
you're
that
not,
again.
yeah, I'm not looking to posture. I'm not looking for people to feel threatened by my presence in the room. It should just be the opposite. They should feel secure and comfort. However, I need to have the skills behind that to be a dangerous person, to be able to protect my family because they're worth protecting, to be able to protect myself in situations, to be able to protect children if I'm in the schools. I think that's a very important concept. Let me say it again for you. My personal approach is to have the skills to be the most dangerous person in most rooms, but actually act and seem like the least dangerous person. In other words, hey, if something's going to go down and you're the one posturing up there in your tough guy spandex t-shirt and your all your gun hats and stuff, they're going to get the jump on you and you're going first because you look like the biggest threat as opposed to you just blending in and trying to handle your business and being a serious person. Which kind of leads us into today's concept and topic on awareness and your approach to relationships. And so here's what I was reading in the dad forums. There tended to be two types out there. which is just a general parenting forum, which were kind of blah, not much was going on in them. And then there's the dad forums, which, and this isn't a knock on it, there tends to be a category of them which are like, men, you need to reclaim your masculinity and be kings and all this, which, all right, if that speaks to people and get them moving, okay. However, in both groups, whether it was just the blog group or the like, hey, let's be tough group or whatever it is, everyone's complaining about relationships with their spouse. There was not much concept of what do I do with my kids? How do I engage them? There's not a lot of questions on it. And the reason why we call it the Strong Family Project is because we think families are much more than parents and then what parents do to kids. It's the whole unit.
Yeah, episode 7, it's all about relationships. We are a family, that is our main relationship, but within that, there are many. And oftentimes when kids are born, the parent relationship takes a back seat, and we're really trying to advocate for not having it take a back seat, for the relationship between the parents to continue to be a priority, not just as mom and dad, but as husband and wife.
Here's what I read most common. I've been married for, and it was somewhere between 10 and 15 years, tended to be the 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years. My wife doesn't look at me the way that she used to, and she says that like I'm a good husband and a good father, but she doesn't feel that attracted towards me. It's almost like you've been married for 10 years and now you're in the friend zone. So first, I want to credit those people out there, the dads in this group in particular, for raising their hand and asking for help. Like that's step one. So some of the things I want to say are going to be a little harsh and they're going to be a little direct is what I should probably say. Not harsh because I think it's unkind to be vague. And so they're just direct. And I want to share with you, I have, how many do I have, Mel?
You said
8.
6 things?
I got all kinds of things. Maybe 6, maybe even less.
Oh,
I got
okay.
some things
Okay.
that I want to talk about to help the relationship between the parents that I'm reading about. You get to this place and all of a sudden you're not sure what's going on in your relationship with your significant other. And what we're doing as a society, it ain't working.
Mhm.
We have over a 50% divorce rate between the demographic of people that are posting these things in the groups. And so when you look at what others are doing, it's not a good idea because most of them are failing. 50% doesn't even get you through a public school.
Yeah, that's less than an F.
So what I'm going to say, I'm saying out of love to try to help you, but it will sound direct. I hope you just understand it's not knocking anybody. It's trying to provide you the truth to help you. And all the 6, or maybe even less, or maybe even more, all 6 of these things may not apply to you. Maybe just the one thing. So please hear them out and don't just turn off because, hey, that first thing might not apply. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully all 6 don't apply to you. That would be, we're in trouble. But fixable, but we're in trouble. So here we go. The first reason why a significant other, husband or wife, I'll speak from a husband's perspective. The reason why your wife may fall out of love with you is because of the lack of progress. You can say, oh, you're the same person you were in high school. You probably shouldn't be. You probably should have some growth over the last decade together. And so the lack of progress creates this tension. It does at work. It does in relationship. If you had this job and you had the same job for exactly 10 years and you had the same skills and you did the same things every day, you would be bored and checked out at the end of 10 years. If you do that in a relationship and you do the same thing, you go through the same steps and go through the same motions every day, after 10 years, the other person's going to be checked out. You have not progressed yourself. Life is about progress. It should make you feel good. It should strengthen your relationships. And if you are stagnant or even worse, regressing, there's going to be issues.
Today, when we were prepping for this, I asked our kids, what do you think it is about mom and dad's relationship that makes it work, that makes it good and solid? And Henry said, you better each other. And I think he hit the nail on the head with your first idea there, is that we make progress together. We better each other, and we see our relationship as something that we want to move forward. We want to get better every day. And 10, 20, 30 years from now, we're going to be even stronger. So I love that he said that. He captured it really well. We better each other.
I don't even want to add much to it, but I'm going to. because that is very well said. And thank goodness we have the wisdom of an 11-year-old to help keep us on track with that sort of thing. Take a look at how much effort you put into your wedding prep, physically, emotionally. You're there, you're taking them on dates, you're caring about them, you're writing them poems, you're working on your vows. And if that person is better and more caring than you are today, you didn't even make progress. You regressed. The reality is people go so big for the wedding or event, they look at themselves physically, look in the mirror, look at the books and consumption, look at the time you spend together. It's probably less, and your relationship's probably worse because of it.
That's a great comparison. A lot of people want to lose 10 pounds, but by their wedding, they want to look a certain way. And it is a very special day, but it's a day. It's only one day, or even maybe less than a day, half a day. And then after that, you're really starting your life with this person. And I think if you have the mindset of we are going to go through life together, we are starting this journey together, how are we going to move forward and progress together? And I think what you're saying is you need to give at least part of that effort that you put into the wedding planning to the planning of your life. And more generally in this podcast, to the planning of your family.
Which leads me right into the second. Number 2, you search for external sources of validation. And the reason why it leads me into the second one is because if you lost 10 pounds for that wedding, it was probably so everyone would think how strong and awesome you look, amazing in that dress, and all the pictures forever. Those are external people to your relationship with the person that you're saying is going to be most important in your life, and we're going to start together. And so every day needs to be you putting in that kind of effort for that one person, not for a posterity's sake, posterior's backside. Oh, not for your backside.
Posterity, I think.
Posterity. Not talking about. Anyways, posterity. Thank you. You're not doing it for that sake of just looking in the pictures. The external sources of validation are like you take these pictures and you post them online and you look for people on the internet to make you feel good. You go into these groups, you post your story, and then you don't do much because people, oh, you got it, bro. Like, you got this. Just man up, power through it. And then a month later, you post the same story, and now it becomes a sob story. And like the first time reaching out for help is good, but you didn't do anything. You didn't get the help you needed, but you do it again because what you got was attention from other people. What you need to be seeking is the attention and I don't think attention is quite the right word, the affection, the adoration of your significant other, and not people who don't live in your home that you don't even know that exist online. That's a big part, but also it could be family. Like, you don't exist for your mother to tell you how to live your life anymore. You're now in a more important relationship with your spouse.
And I remember when we were getting married, I think that maybe, I'm not even sure who it was, but the person you're marrying has to now be number one. They have to come first in your value system, in your decision making, in what you choose to do every day. And I think that kind of gets thrown to the side because you almost get used to them. Oh, they're always going to be there. But sometimes it's hard to put that person first because there's all these external pressures. So maybe just realizing what are these external things that are either giving me validation or that are giving me pressure, and trying to separate those out from what you actually want.
Leads me right into number 3. You're distracted. It could be all these external things where you're seeking validation. It could be distraction by your daily life that you're now holding more important than your marital life, your family life. You're more concerned with the latest news story than you are knowing your children deeper. And that's a tough truth.
It is. And I think it's very easy to be distracted, especially during the week. You can say, we'll spend time on the weekend, or we'll find some time later, and you keep pushing it off. And these distractions eventually build up. And maybe there was an issue that started early on that it wasn't bad enough, so I'll just put it off. That's an uncomfortable conversation. I don't really want to have that conversation. And suddenly you wake up 10, 15 years later, and you're in a much deeper hole than you would have been had you made the effort early. So are we talking strategy? Because one strategy that has worked for us and I think is really important is prioritizing time with that person. Quality time, not just time. Like, we could just be sitting here on our phones and we're in the same room, but actual quality time, and every day if possible, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever. So you're investing that time into this person. You're staying connected. You know what's going on in their life. They know what's going on in your life. You can share issues with kids or work or whatever. But whenever that connection starts to get lost, that daily connection, it really impacts. Sometimes it happens for us where a kid will be sick. And of course, not everything is perfect all the time, but a kid will be sick. They're home from school. We can't go on our daily walk. And suddenly a week goes by and we're like, oh my gosh, why do we feel disconnected? What's going on here? And it's because we didn't prioritize or we had a hard time prioritizing that week ourselves. So finding a way with your significant other to prioritize time, I'm in the best case scenario on a daily to reconnect and spend time together so that you don't lose that connection, so that you don't wait till it's potentially too late.
Said something very important at the beginning of that I wanted to reemphasize. If you're just a little bit off each day, if you're just 1 inch off each day, multiply that times 364 times 10 years, you are miles apart. And so it's easy to let it slip an inch a day because it almost goes unnoticed. The little, we'll get to later. I'll care about it later. And all of a sudden you're 10 years and you just don't even know the person anymore.
Or let's say a baby has come into the picture now. Now you're a family of 3 or more. And people might think this is just how it's supposed to be. The parents are supposed to grow apart once a child enters the equation. And we want to challenge that. I want to challenge that thinking because, of course, you're going to have less time. Of course, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot more of your time to take care of the child. However, if you let your relationship take a back seat, again, it's going to accumulate. So it still needs to be a priority to, to stay connected even when there's a baby.
Re-listen to episode 7 on relationships in the household and episode 9 on relationship capital on how to spend it. Moving on then. This one is direct. My number 4, you're not a serious person. And here's what I mean. You don't have values. You haven't changed your lifestyle once you become a significant other to somebody. You basically are two people that live together, share a house, and you just go on doing the same childish things that you did when you were younger. You didn't mature and become a more serious person as an adult. Now that isn't to knock humor. We love joking around. I'm almost over here passing out red in the face from doing it late in the day. For this is our 4th one we're shooting for you. We'll joke about it later. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but there are some things that you need to put boundaries around, and these are serious topics in your relationship with your spouse is absolutely one of them. And you growing up and maturing is absolutely one of them. And let me give you some indicators. This is where I got in trouble
I
before,
was
so I
like,
got to
what's he going to
pause.
say this time?
If you, and this goes with your external source of validation, if you care about the next Star Wars movie more than you care about your significant other, if you have Star Wars posters up in your basement, if you have sports teams posters up and it affects your attitude all week on the game that happened that weekend, if you're reading Avengers fan fiction instead of spending time and writing a letter to your significant other, playing with your kids, like these are all immature behaviors that I see in adults, and you're not a serious person, and it's going to affect your relationship. Sure, you can bond over those things. Sure, you both may like Star Wars. I don't want to offend my friend Vince, who's a big Star Wars fan, great family man, though, because he's got the balance. Sure, you may root for the same team, because I'm trying to pick things for different examples. But if it affects the outcome of a movie or a game, affects your relationships in the household, you're not a serious person, and you have some growth opportunity in your life.
And we live in a very much a me culture where people think that I want to put this the right way. People focus a lot on the individual, on what I like, what I want to do, what's important to me. And they don't think about I'm going to just backtrack for just a second. So the me culture where it's very focused on me. What do I want? What's my career going to be? What do I want for my future? And then it doesn't become a we or an our anymore. And I think when you start to focus so much on what you want as an individual and you lose sight of what you are as a couple, because when we got married, we became one, then the struggle really starts. I mean, we of course have our own individual goals and priorities and things, but us together is really number one. And I think losing sight of that we and choosing the me, it can be very detrimental in a relationship.
Good job powering through that with a soccer game going on
I know.
in our kitchen. So hopefully you can't pick that up on the mic, but we got to keep going anyways with it. You do need to sacrifice a little bit of your individual self to join the we, and then hopefully become stronger together if you made a good pick in a partner.
Yes, thank you. You summarized it very well. That's what I was trying to say.
And that's true. Don't be selfish. Become a serious person about serious matters. Relationships are serious matters. Family are serious matters. If you bring a kid into this world and you're still spending your weekends writing Boba Fett fan fiction on whether he was a bounty hunter from this planet or that planet, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you've created a serious situation by your decisions to have a significant other and a family, and now you're not taking the serious steps to take care of those people. You don't want me to go on off on Boba Fett anymore?
I think we should.
Pretty smart. Yeah, let's slide on. I tried to throw a sports knock in one in there as well because I'm a sports fan, but I play college sports. I get competition, and I do not let it affect my family life. I know people, if the game didn't go their way on the weekend, their work is trash on Monday, and it's just not, you're not a serious person if you let that happen. Yes, I say it sarcastically about Star Wars, but it is about any external thing to the serious events of your life.
Well, today even, we could have stayed home and just individually done whatever. And we chose to go out to Walmart. And then before that, we attached a hike to that. And I asked the kids at dinner, and I said, do you think your day would have been better if you had stayed home and used tech, or if we went out and did this hike together? And they clearly said the hike together. So we're choosing our priorities and our values of wanting to be together. And I don't think you ever will regret putting aside the me and putting effort and energy towards the we, towards the family relationship or the significant other relationship. It's just a matter of doing it.
Number 5 on my list of 6, we're almost there. If you have trouble in a relationship after 10, 12, 13, 14, at any time, perhaps you value the wrong things. And yes, it's kind of spin off of what I talked about earlier from games, sports teams, or whatever like that. Yeah, you can value those things, but those shouldn't be the core values that drive whether you're happy or not. And so that's how I want to bring it full circle. The valuing the wrong things includes valuing your time poorly, valuing external, I'm sorry, I got some flash in my eyes here from a child. You're valuing things including alcohol. That's a serious one. If you value alcohol more than you value your family, you're probably going to throw it away. And I know a significant number of people that have. I love my family, but I just go out to drink every night. Then you don't love your family more than you love alcohol. You have a poor value system. It's broken and it's not serving you, and it deserves fixing. And I know that's an addiction, and there's reasons for it. Not letting you off the hook, though, it's just a screwed up value system, whether you're valuing the outcome of your sports games, whether you're valuing work over family, and I've gone down that path before, whether you're valuing drugs, alcohol, Netflix, you're valuing these things at a higher priority than you are your relationship, and that's screwed up.
When we came up with our family core values, we sat down separately, wrote down everything that was important to us as individuals, and then we came together and found the common ground. So again, if I know you're saying by your actions, you're showing what you value. And I think if you took the time to figure out what you together value, then that helps you to move forward and know what to do and what choices to make. And yes, addiction obviously requires a bit more effort, and you need a bit more help with that. That might not just simply be by sitting down with your significant other, but knowing what you value, what people see that you value based on your actions is really important.
Spoiler alert, if you stay through the next one, I'll give you my 1-week plan to help get things back on track. So far, we've talked. You lack progress in your life. You search for external sources of validation. You're distracted, not serious, and you value the wrong things. My last one, and then it'll lead right into what I want to provide as a potential solution for you, is that you avoid tough conversations. And you avoid them so long that they become tougher and tougher to have. After this morning's podcast, Mel seemed a little off, and it's tough for me to ask, say, hey, what's going on? Something doesn't seem quite right. And she didn't feel as confident with the podcast we had, so hopefully you don't mind me sharing, that we had spoken earlier. Felt like we were a little disjointed, and part of the reason why we were reshooting one today is I felt the same way. Something felt off, and we just nipped it in the bud. We didn't let it go to like me assuming something else was wrong and then me getting off, and then like where I'm starting to get off track and worried about things and just in general. And then she's, what's he so upset about? And we start snowballing when it was really something small. And we should have had the small, tough conversation before we even lose track what we're all about.
Yeah, that was really helpful. I complimented you later in the day about how it helped me that you listened right away after the podcast. And that's credit to us putting effort towards our communication. That's really helped us to nip things early so they don't fester and get worse later on. And sometimes it is a tough truth. I didn't feel confident in one of the podcasts earlier. I thought I was stumbling a bit. And we have a strong enough relationship where I could admit that to him, and then he can admit that back to me because I need that honesty to be able to make progress.
So that we're dealing in honesty, I want to provide a potential solution for you to try to get things back on track if they're off track in your family, specifically with your significant other. The first 5 days of that week, I want you to do a time audit. Honest to a T. How much time do you spend on your phone? How much time do you spend on Netflix? How much do you spend time at work? How much time do you spend eating? You can do this for 5 days. If your relationship's important, 1 week is nothing. So get over yourself. You got to do that full-time audit. Within that time audit, it's going to show you what you value. I talk about valuing the wrong things. Your answer will be in that time audit. Whatever you spend the most time on is what you value the most. And so once you get those answers for yourself and you say, I work for 8 hours a day. How can I spend 8 hours a day with my spouse? What are you working for? Are you working for you to go buy the next car? You're working to provide for your family. There's a difference there. So there are some things that are a little bit in the gray area. However, it's more of those external things where you have free time and what are you doing with it?
It's really important to recognize it. It makes me think of if you go to your phone and it shows you which apps you spend the most of your time on, it's what you're doing for your day. Where are you putting your energy? Where are you putting your time? And then once you figure out what you're really valuing with your time usage, you can then make different choices.
And I want to emphasize why I say you got to be brutally honest. Spending time posting the same question in an internet forum for the 5th time about your relationship is not spending time working on your relationship. It's spending time seeking external validation. If you're working on your relationship, you would find you'd be spending time defining what success looks like for you in that situation, and then looking for the specific path to get there, not the blind leading the blind. So there are different levels to if you're actually working on it, there would be positive momentum.
And I know we got to the point where we're talking about the to-do or the strategy, but I'd like to backtrack for a second. I think I have an important way of explaining this that might help people with their mindsets. So I'll start with this. What got you together may not be what keeps you together. And I think you had mentioned earlier that's a business thing.
Yeah, what got you to this level may not get you to that level. What maybe made you your first million probably won't make you 10 million. You have to progress your skill set.
Maybe this could have been under the one of the first things you mentioned with progress, but I'll give an example too in just a second. So there's something called projection, and not to get all therapy, but when I was in social work school, we learned about projection. So what happens is in any relationship, oftentimes you will project something onto the other person that maybe you're not good at, and they will complete it for you. And that's how you meet someone and how you get along. So an example for me, when we got together, I had very low self-confidence. Not that I necessarily knew it at the time. I wasn't like seeking someone with confidence purposefully, but this happened subconsciously. Looking back, I realized I had very low self-confidence, and Joe like exuded confidence. So that brought us together, and it worked really well because I didn't have it. He had it. He completed me in that way. People sometimes say, you complete me. I think this is what they're referring to. So this can be all different kinds of characteristics. Now, that might have been what helped us get together. That might have been, I think it was, one of the main things that connected us at the beginning. And your humor, of course. But over time...
Rippling muscles.
That's a bonus, too.
Okay, go ahead.
And over time, they've gotten bigger, too, your muscles. So
Yeah.
very nice. Anyway, So over time, spending time with someone who's so confident, I started to gain confidence. I even went when I had a kindergartner in school. We met with the parents out at the playground before school started, and someone came over to me and said, how do you just seem to like everybody?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "You just go up to him and introduce yourself." And suddenly I realized, man, I have some confidence. I had no idea. But I had progressed it a lot through my relationship with you. And now that thing that got us together, I don't really need him anymore to complete that confidence for me because I have gained it myself. So I think what happens over time is you might no longer need that person to complete that thing. You need to find the next thing that completes you together. And that might be subconsciously just happens, but I think sometimes over time it has to be more purposeful. Like if you stay connected every day and you're always talking and connecting with each other, you'll probably figure that out pretty easily. But sometimes people just say, we just don't connect anymore. We just don't seem to get along anymore. And I think that wouldn't happen if you kept the connection going. So I just wanted to bring this up as an idea. Maybe you can think about the things that connected you when you first got together. And maybe those things are not as relevant anymore, but I have every confidence that there can be other things. Even like working out, for example, I never really worked out. And now we work out together. I can put together a workout for myself and we balance each other. We progress together and we always want the other person to do better. And I think when you have that kind of mindset and understanding, it makes it easier and more tangible to move forward and to get excited about the future.
I really appreciate you sharing that, Mel. And I'll share some from my side. Is when we got married, I grew up in a household that had a lot of yelling and loud noises and a lot of lack of patience with the children. I didn't carry that into our relationship because you have such wonderful patience, and you helped teach that to me and to slow down and think. I was always a ready, fire, aim guy. We got to go. We're going to jump, build a parachute on the way down. And it serves me well in some aspects, but I need to make sure that the choices that I'm making in the family also serve everyone well. And from your patience and helping me learn and better that, it's made a significant difference in my life. And so, like you said earlier, what got us together with these deficits and we continue to elevate each other aren't going to get us any further because we've taken care of that. We need to move to the next thing. We need to have that constant progress, like I mentioned about in my first note.
I love that you mentioned the patience thing because I have seen that change in you. And this is another piece of connecting with your spouse is complimenting them, making sure that you mention the wins. It's exciting for me, and I think it's exciting for any couple to realize that they have impact on the other person. So I really appreciate that.
So let me get back to my week. Now that I'm showing my impatience, I want to get back to the solution for everyone.
No, good.
That
We
was
should.
an excellent detour that people should learn a lot from. So we have our 5-day time audit. You write down everything. And on the fifth day, I also want you to write down everything you love about your relationship. So you put a positive focus on it by showing some gratitude. Look at what you spend your time on, what shows you what you value, work on your gratitude. And I want you to spend the 6th day thinking about the best way to start this tough conversation with your significant other so that you're just not walking in all emotional with no game plan. You have to have some questions that take into account the good things in your life, the gratitude, the things that are your fault that are off track, the time audit, and then try to get things back on track together by asking intelligent questions that aren't pointing the finger, such as the story I'm telling myself is that you seem to not look at me the way you used to. And internally, I feel a little hurt by it. Is that correct? And so you're asking it in a way, I think it's actually a Brene Brown thing of the way that she words some of her questions. You're asking it like, you're not saying, why don't you look at me the way you used to? That's a great way to put up some barriers. That's a
Gonna get
great,
defensive right away.
that's a great way to start an argument. But instead, you're sitting down. And when I say sit down and have the conversation, sit down. You're not getting up. You take your feet off the ground. Take away your opportunity to walk away until the conversation's over. And you frame it for a day, which helps you build your confidence to stay on track and not stay emotional because it's going to be an important conversation. On the 7th day, you sit down and you have that conversation to get answers and to get a direction together and say, hey, here's what I learned about my time. here's what I'm thankful for in our relationship, and here's where I'm feeling like we're off track, and I want to get us back on track. Is this how you view it? Is this true? Question your assumptions, give the other person a chance, and have a discussion on it. And perhaps it is true. Worst case scenario, like, hey, you are not a serious person, and you got to stop writing that Boba Fett fan fiction.
I just can't give that up.
I have no other examples. I can't really name any more characters.
But
And
this,
then you say, all right, here, perhaps we're not going to agree on everything today. We've had 10 years where things have been slightly off track, and I need to own a bunch of it. Let me work on this one thing for the next 30, 60, 90 days. And I would like you to perhaps come up with one thing that can bring us closer together as well. And let's work on this together, and let's pop up in 30 days and see if that got us back on track a little. And then we can have another discussion then. You do it in a serious tone, unemotional, because you need to get to a solution together if you don't want this to snowball any further.
and think about how, first of all, when you were explaining that, it made me think of the podcast we did about You Have the Floor. It's a perfect opportunity for that communication skill where you explain where your head's at, the story is you're telling yourself, but then you're asking for clarification to make sure that you are not telling yourself some terrible story that's not true or partially not untrue. And the other thing that occurred to me was if you do make this effort and things do, whether they progress or however things end up, if you put this effort in, this is an incredible role modeling opportunity for you and your children. So kids are going to definitely notice that things are off. I think kids have this sense about them. Maybe they're used to it, but if they suddenly see a change in their parents and a change in how things are being handled in the family between the parents, I think that is a wonderful opportunity. Because like you mentioned earlier, based on what you grew up with, you might not just want to walk into a relationship and repeat those things. So here's a chance to show your kids that things can improve, things can change. And you do need to think about it ahead of time so that you don't bring all the emotion to that conversation. That's really important.
One sub note, if you prepare for a presentation at work, I've had the blessing to be able to step on stage and speak to a lot of crowds. The key word there is you get to prepare to do it. You don't just get to do it. And you want to sit down with one of the most important meetings with one of the most important people in your life and have no prep work done. It's not like you're sneak attacking them. I know some people would say, oh, they just feel like it is like a sneak attack if you accuse them of everything. That's why I want you to spend 5 days reflecting on yourself with your time audit. I want you to spend a day writing down all the things you're thankful for and going well. So it's not like the wheels are falling off. Show some gratitude for where you've gotten. And then you prep and have the conversation in a caring way with the person that you should care about. And so what success looks like to you out of this meeting is to get things slightly back on track. You will never fix a 10-year off-track relationship in one meeting. But you can change that 1 inch one way to 1 inch back on track and slowly get it back on track. However, you need to have concrete things to work on. That's why I said, here's one thing I'm willing to work on. Is there something that you're willing to work on? It can't be like, let's just see how it goes.
It might help to go re-listen to our goal setting podcast, because when we do our goal setting for the year, it gets broken down into a daily commitment. You do something, a little thing every day. And that's that little inch you're talking about. So if you're going to go a little inch every day, you're going to get somewhere. So I think if you maybe re-listen to that, it gives you a little bit of understanding of how to not just set the goal, but actually get it in motion.
And I'm going to finish with one wild example.
Ooh.
No, it's not that wild.
Oh man, I was
Yeah, I
excited
know.
about
I
it.
really oversold it. So I come from the fitness world. The best thing you can do for fitness is to gain a little bit of momentum. And so moving from 0 to 1, from never showing up to work out to a 3-day-a-week commitment. It's not, I lost 10 pounds, I can run a 5K. Like, that's down the road. Going from 0 to 1 is the hard part. And once you get to 1, it's much easier to get to the next one. Now you start to get addicted to the results that you're getting by the progress, and you and your spouse can do the same thing in a relationship and start growing together by, all right, we made a little progress in this 30 days. Dang, maybe this thing isn't hopeless. Let's go after it again. Let's keep going and build this together. And all of a sudden you're rolling downhill, building momentum. You're not going to fix the relationship in one meeting, but you're going to fix the trajectory and the momentum of your life in a short period of time.
Sounds very doable.
What I would recommend is people get over to strongfamilyproject.com, get the path. It is free for you to teach you some of these things. We'll have some Q&A episodes. We've already shot one. We are happy to get on and talk about these tough conversations. Who would we be if we just said, hey, go have tough conversations, and we dodge them all ourselves and we don't provide you any guidance? So we want to tackle some of them in this episode. That's where you get it. It'll be down in the show notes. You can follow us on Instagram. We're posting a little bit more throughout the day. And as we grow our relationship with the listeners, the people who are on our email list specifically, who have downloaded the path, we will have some more of the tougher conversations with you, more direct, because we'll have that relationship with you. So get involved. The more you get involved, the more we can help out. You good, Mel?
I'm much happier with how this one went than the one earlier.
Tell you what.
Thanks for suggesting to redo it.
Conversation went much better, but somehow I lost my cardio. All red in the face during this episode. But I did want to get it right. I apologize for my cardio going. A couple distractions by the kids, but hey, that's life. They are honestly the most important right now. So this is a side project that we love doing, and if they make a little noise, I do apologize for it. I got a little winded, but let's land this airplane. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Strong Family Project podcast. Talk